Good afternoon from the KUOW newsroom. This is Seattle Now. I'm Paige Browning with a roundup of today's top stories. It's Wednesday, September 3rd. A western front of states is bucking the Trump administration's vaccine approach this week. The Democratic governors of Washington, Oregon, and California say they've created an alliance to coordinate health guidelines for the public. Washington Health Secretary Dennis Worsham says the states feel they can no longer trust the health guidance they receive from federal agencies like the CDC.
Seen some of the practices starting to roll out of the federal administration over CDC has caused us a pause and a concern. And we want people in Washington to know, along with Oregon and California, that we're going to look at the best science, the rigor that has been put into these trusted areas.
Worsham says the three states will work together to preserve access to vaccines, including the COVID vaccine. It comes as Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. attempts to advance anti-vaccine policies that are contradicted by decades of scientific research. Major news in policing today. After 13 years, a federal judge has released Seattle from federal oversight of its police department. Judge James Robart thanked Seattle police officers for adopting new policies and trainings that reduced use of force, and says they satisfied the conditions of the federal consent decree. The federal oversight came after a Seattle police officer shot and killed First Nations woodcarver John T. Williams 15 years ago this week. Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell says the city will continue to support constitutional policing.
So we are on the right trajectory, and we need to acknowledge that, and that was the validation we got from Judge Robart today.
Harrell pledged that his next budget will fully fund the city's police oversight partners. He also said the city will press for the next police contract to give a larger role to unarmed crisis responders. Police Chief Sean Barnes told the judge he intends to promote a healthy culture where officers can speak out and are rewarded for showing care for the community. Another top story we're following this week, 80% of Washington state is experiencing severe drought. That includes the Seattle and Tacoma areas. But there's no request for us to start skipping showers. Local water utilities say they've got things under control. John Ryan reports.
It's been one of the driest summers on record, and a drought emergency was declared over much of the state in June. But water utilities say they're not too concerned for now. Seattle's two big reservoirs in the Cascades are about 11% below normal, while the Spada Reservoir in Snohomish County is about 17% below normal. Seattle officials say they anticipated this year's extra dry summer and filled the Cedar and Tolt reservoirs fuller than normal in the spring to prepare. Utilities say they don't anticipate any water shortages, though they encourage customers to use water wisely and avoid overwatering gardens and yards. Irrigation is the region's biggest consumer of water each summer. John Ryan, KUOW News.
A loss this week for the White House. The Trump administration has agreed to put back up dozens of health resources it deleted from federal websites on topics like pregnancy risks and opioid use disorder. The Washington State Medical Association sued the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services over hiding the information, and this week announced it settled the lawsuit. Washington Medical Association President Dr. John Bramhall says the information was taken down for political reasons, not scientific ones, and it's causing problems for physicians to not have the resources on
vaccination issues, sexually transmitted illnesses, gender issues, disparities in care, gone. We think that that's unwise. It's unfair. It's unkind. It's dangerous.
He expects HHS to start restoring the information in the coming weeks. KNKX reported this story and has not heard back on its request for comment from HHS. You want robo-taxis? Ready or not, here they come. Waymo says it'll begin testing self-driving vehicles in the greater Seattle region. The California startup already operates autonomous taxis in a handful of cities across the country, including San Francisco. But the dark, rainy Pacific Northwest poses a unique challenge for self-driving cars, as does the regulatory environment. Local regulations require self-driving cars to have a human behind the wheel. So don't expect to see Waymos driving themselves around town just yet. Happy first day of school to Seattle students. Our reporters have been watching one trend. More Seattle families are relying on secondhand stores for their back-to-school shopping and household needs this fall. But as Monica Nicholsberg reports, thrifting doesn't feel as thrifty as it used to.
Seattle is home to the biggest Goodwill in the world. And shoppers there on a recent Friday agreed on one thing.
We have noticed the prices going up.
It's a lot more expensive now.
They're getting a little bit cute with, pricing stuff higher, I would say.
But Evergreen Goodwill says it's only seen prices rise 2% on average over the past 2 years. Jennifer Lazat is a historian at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. And as a thrifting expert, she has a theory that explains this mismatch.
As secondhand clothing has gotten slightly more expensive, firsthand clothing has gotten much cheaper. And so I think the perception is skewed by the fact that firsthand clothing has gotten about as cheap as it can get.
Still, Seattle Goodwills are seeing a surge in foot traffic. Monica Nicholsberg, KUOW News.
For more on this story, listen to the latest episode of KUOW's podcast, Booming. If a night at the park sounds nice, be aware of some closures. Seattle has closed 3 parks because of what it calls negative park activity. They are Seven Hills Park on Capitol Hill, Lake City Mini Park, and Dr. Blanche Levizo Park in the Central District. They're closed until November. The city did not specify what kinds of activities they're trying to discourage, but a Parks Department spokesperson says the city's looking to install fences, lighting, and garden beds to make them clean and inviting. Finally today, a chapter's ending for Nirvana. Seattle's Museum of Pop Culture has announced it's phasing out its exhibit, Nirvana, Taking Punk to the Masses, after a 14-year run. It closes Sunday, September 7th. The display features the band's smashed guitars, items from Kurt Cobain's closet, and concert art. Mopop's throwing a farewell celebration on Saturday with a gallery tour and a panel of experts from the music industry. Next time on Seattle Now, recent shakeups at the FDA and CDC have created confusion about vaccines.
What has happened in the course of the last several weeks to months is that there has been separating of science from policy at the national level.
UW Medicine's Dr. Helen Chu will offer some clarity Thursday morning. And that's all for today from the KUOW Newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Andy Hurst, and I'm Paige Browning. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. See ya.